I've been threatening to work on this project for months, and I think it's time I actually get started on it. The electric moped conversion that I've been talking about for years. I've got the majority of what I need. I mean, a few things here or there, and of course I want to beautify it at the end, but I think I'm going to start. Had to give up on removing this bolt, so I'm drilling it out now. If I spin it on the backside, this just spins, and it's just eating up the plastic. So I didn't want to destroy original hardware any more than I already have, because I don't know, I might use it for something else. So I'm just going to drill that out and be done with it. Biggest problem with letting a project go this long is you kind of lose your bolts. So right now I found two bolts that sort of fit. I'm sure this is metric, and these are standard. So it's not going to be much, but I am going to get the tires on tonight before I go to bed to at least get this far in the project. I gave it a quick wipe down, make it slightly shinier, but this is at least the farthest I've gotten so far in this project. So I've made quite a mess for myself. I've been modeling for the past couple days, and I took the measurements from the moped for the section that I'm actually making the mount on, and then the wheel, just to give myself some reference. I decided not to use chain. I want it to be as silent as possible, seeing as it's electric. And I know a lot of people say silence is deadly, nobody can hear you on the road, whatever. It's not going to really matter anyway, is it? Not the way people drive nowadays. So I have been workshopping different sprockets. Well, what do you call these? Pulleys. Pulleys for these moped. Now, obviously, this is not going to be the final result. The final result is going to be aluminum. But it gives me, templates to work with. Now, I bought this blue filament, and I've been, constantly having printer failures. So, this is brand new PLA Plus that I bought, and I think it's just because the color dye that they use in it. So, I'm going back to my carbon fiber filament. But at the very least, I have enough of a template for the main piece that I need to actually go in the moped. So with the template, I can line it up and see that everything matches out the way that I needed it to. So now I just need the metal to cut it out. Now I was thinking, I don't want to spend money on metal. I just need, I designed it to be 3/16 of an inch. So what do I have that's 3/16? I've got this random cart that I've had for, I don't know, maybe 20 years. And you know what? It happens to be the right thickness. All the wheels are locked up anyway. So, yeah, that's done. Now that I've got it cut out to size, I went ahead and just used a little bit of paint marker. Let's see. Oh yeah, and kind of made a spot for each of them so the drill goes in easier. So let's get to drilling. Making the second piece and throwing it in the sandblaster for a couple minutes is what I have. You can definitely make out quite a bit of the pitting from the original rust, but I'm planning on powder coating this anyway, so it's really not going to matter. Now, the nice thing with 3D printing is I can work out problems that I didn't realize I was going to have. Because I modeled the wheel and this portion of the frame, I did not model the fork on the back here. So, when I put this in, I had it 180 degrees around, and it had a clearance issue. So now, I just flipped it around. It works, but that means I had to recalculate how I was going to do the motor mount. Now this is the piece, well, this is the mock-up for the piece that the motor mount was going to be. Because, let's see, yeah, it was going to go around this way, hold the motor in place. But now I have a little bit of a clearance issue. So now, what I'm going to do, it's actually not going to make this near as thick. I'm still going to put this back portion on, but it's going to be flatter up against. Which then the shaft that I have, I'll probably have to make a little bit longer because once I get the pedals on, it's going to be like a little tight on the one side. So the pedal on the opposite side is going to be a little bit further out, but we'll see how that goes. So I messed up severely when calculating for my belt. So the next best thing is to take one of these. I don't know what they're called, but they were in my sewing kit. Just a flexible tape measure. 52 is the size that it looks like I actually need once I actually get it in. I ordered the belt that I needed, but it's not going to be here for a week. So in the meantime, I just took some electrical tape and bound it up together. It kind of works. It's not great. I put the motor mount mostly together. It doesn't have the tensioner or anything, so it's still got a little bit of work to go. But it's testable. So now, I put the controller in, got an Ego battery. So this is not the voltage it's going to be, but it's close approximation. And when I turn the throttle, let's do this very slowly. Alright, now let's go faster. And faster. And faster. For the time being, since I don't have the belt and don't have brakes and everything else, I popped a little piece of reflective tape and tested the RPMs. And I can say with this battery, it's going about 42 miles per hour. And I've adjusted the calculation on the motor, so I won't know fully until I test it. Oh, tape broke. But yeah, I think I've got it set about right where it's showing the correct speed. Got a little bit ahead of myself and modeled the metal tensioner. You can kind of see the evolution of the part. The original design that stuck out a little bit further, the modified design that was flatter up against the motor, and the final actual metal part. It's not perfect, obviously, especially with all the pitting in this metal, but like I said, everything's going to be powder coated by the end. So that is that. I made a couple shims to hold in a metal pipe that's the mock-up for the actual shaft. Everything seems to line up real well. I did not realize how tight of a clearance I was going to have against this part. It should still work fine. Worst case scenario, I got to take a hammer to this and knock it back that way. But the next part that I've got to make is this. This bearing. It's not really a seal. It's more of just a hold it in place type of deal, which goes right on the inside here. So now what I've got to do is cut it out of metal. Now, I've been doing some work trying to get this properly aligned, and this is like the biggest portion. Now, the pins that I have aren't quite long enough to go all the way through all these plates of metal. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take some spray paint, spray through those holes that I know are lined up properly. That way I'll have something to measure, to drill. I'll show you in a second. After I cleaned up my mess, this is what I got. I don't think that paint is very good anymore. I did shake it up for a while, but that's just how it turned out. It did give me enough of a reference that I can actually go through and line this up and remark it. While I was out too, I went ahead and got myself a proper metal center punch. This way I can get a little bit better accuracy with my holes. So now that I've got the new part on, this is lined up the way it's supposed to be. Everything seems to be fairly straight. The biggest thing that I have realized is on these pulleys, when I make the real ones, they're definitely going to have much more prominent ridges. Because I keep having issues like this where the belt wants to fall out. Now, this belt might be a little too small still. It's a 52-inch .5 or something like that. Right now, my tensioner is all the way down. I don't even have, the tension piece yet. But I'm definitely going to have to make something for this end. Because I need something just to pull this back manually. So I can tension that way. Because getting these tires on, even with the chain, I've had problems with these mopeds. Alright, so we're going to do another test. We'll set this halfway here. Whoa. Yeah, unfortunately with nothing holding this on yet, no pins or whatever, it does want to pop off. So we'll just pop this off for the time being. Yeah, this belt really doesn't like to be cooperative on these pulleys. The next part that I have to work on is to put a little bit of structure right in here. So I don't want, when I put the motor on, this to compress. So I've got this metal tube that I'm just going to cut, weld in place there, and take to the other side and do as well. That way it gives it a little bit more help getting everything stayed put. I went ahead and got my welds as clean as I could get them, and kind of wish I had a better welder that didn't just have a switch and a dial. So for the motor mount itself, the only other part I have to work on is the actual tensioner. So I'm going to tap this out. I'm going to weld on the backside a 1/4 inch threaded rod. I'm going to take an L bracket, cut that out, put it in place on the backside where this lines up with that. It's going to be threaded through. I'm going to probably weld another screw onto the backside, and then I can put a long 1/4 inch bolt through here that I can put a nut on this end, nut on the other end, get everything all tensioned up, and it should be good to go. Here's pretty much the setup. It is threaded. It is a little thinner than I wanted it. I'm going to see if this will be fine for now. It really all depends on how much I'll end up having to tension this. I don't think it's going to be a lot, so I'm probably not going to have a lot of room in between here. Should be fine because this isn't going to hold a lot of weight. This is basically just to keep it tensioned while I tighten up the main bolt. So I'm just going to give that a little bit of cleanup, throw everything through powder coating and, well, sandblasting, then powder coating, and then I'll show you what it looks like at the end here. Got all my parts powder coated. They're pretty good. Obviously, with the pitting of the metal, it's interesting. I wouldn't say it's bad, it's just unusual. There is a little bit of non-painted surface right on the inside. For whatever reason, it was like repelling the powder coat. So I'll deal with that. I'll just do a spray real quick here or there with the regular spray paint. Where it's going to be hit the most is completely powder coated and perfectly fine. So we've got the metal parts versus the plastic parts as a comparison. I'm really satisfied with how this turned out. So we'll give this a quick assembly. And then get it on the moped. Guess we'll start with the bearings. Now the bearings, I wanted to put a little bit of this Loctite silicone glue. I'm pretty sure it's silicone. Just a little bit on the outside of the bearing. Just enough that it will help it set in place and prevent it from having some extreme vibration problems. So this will pretty much conclude the mounting section of this video. I set out what I planned to do. I made a motor mount that used majority of the original mounting holes to put on an electric motor. So if for any reason I needed to convert this back to gasoline for nonsensical government reasons, I can do that. But for the time being, it's on. The only thing I haven't done is painted the bolts the correct color. I mounted the controller, as you can see. It's right underneath it here, so it'll get plenty of air. The downside to what I had to do on this is I made some TPU levelers, basically. They're just little cylinders that are attached by a strip. And I did tap and bolt it onto the bottom of the frame, but they're only like small. I think it was a 10/32, or what do you call that, 10/32 thread bolt. The back wheels, I didn't have to make a tensioner. I found the original tensioner for the moped, which I'll just throw a picture for you. They're these little weird, almost seashell shaped things. I didn't like them working the gas motor, because on the gas motor, that was the only thing that tensioned. So getting all the tension correct was kind of up to that. Now I can use them on the one side and the other side to make sure that I have my pulley centered so it doesn't slip off or anything. So I have a little bit more to work with, and then the actual belt tension is done by the motor mount itself. So I'm actually really happy with that. If it wasn't for the fact that all I have right now is the plastic pulley for the main drive, I could actually do a road test with this. So that leads me into the next part, which technically isn't even going to be part of the moped series, but is going to be kind of something I have to do to get there, is I'm going to try my best to make a usable lathe out of like 90% of the spare parts that I have. Realistically, the only thing that I am going to actually buy is bearings, maybe a pipe or two, and the actual lathe chuck, because even though I have 3D models to print a lathe chuck, I'm not going to attempt to even try that. So look forward to that video. That'll definitely be weird. But luckily, my neighbors gave me a little bit more scrap metal. So I'll actually have something that'll have a nice, strong table to start. So that'll be good. For the moped itself, I'm going to, I guess my next part of the video will probably be after I'm done making my aluminum pulleys, maybe doing a road test, and then after that, probably the battery. And then probably after that, just painting it and finishing everything up. So that's my thought plan at the moment. It might change. Hopefully that's the gist of it. But so far I'm happy. Everything looks good. Oh yeah, and the almost forgot. The 54-inch belt that I got is perfect. I tensioned it up. Everything seems to work straight, especially now that I have the back tensioners on. And everything's looking good so far. So hope you guys stick around and watch the next set of videos. And this has been fun. This has been exciting. So I'll see you in the next one.